संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। So we are almost in the concluding section of the 8th chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. So today, just the last verse was left out. So instead of starting with the last verse, we will summarize the entire chapter, and then as a conclusion, we will study the last verse too. So the 8th chapter. So we'll find that the 8th chapter starts as a continuation of the 7th chapter. In the 7th chapter, the Bhagavan spoke of the 6 aspects of the reality. And that is what Arjuna is asking in the very beginning of the 8th chapter, to clarify all those six aspects of reality which Bhagavan spoke of in the very conclusion of the 7th chapter. So the verse 1 to 4. So in these first 4 verses of the 8th chapter, we'll find that the Bhagavad Gita is following a very integral approach to the reality. So this is a very, very unique approach of Bhagavad Gita. So we find that Bhagavad Gita stands apart from all other scriptures in its endeavor to synthesize all the various concepts of divinity which we find in all other denominations. So here we find that Bhagavad Gita is taking a very, very integral approach to the reality. Now, if you all remember, when we were started this chapter, we tried to understand that in philosophy what this word realities means. So we'll find in all the, whether it's in the Western or in the Eastern philosophies, we'll find that they speak of the 3 aspects of the reality. As a human being, we think of the reality in these 3 aspects. And what's the interrelation between these 3 aspects? What's that? That I am. This is the reality we feel, that this I am, this Jiva. The world is the Jagat. And for most of us, from the very inception of civilization, we don't know from when, in all the cultures, the concept, I am, the world is, in this world everything we find exists because of some cause. There must be a cause from which the entire creation, from which everything has been created. There is nothing without cause. So here I am, here the world is. What's the cause behind it? So Jiva, Jagat, that cause, in various nomenclature we use. So that cause, someone says God, someone in our tradition we say Ishvara, someone says Brahman. So whatever we will be nomenclaturing it, whatever name we may give in it, that Ishvara speaks of the cause behind me and this world. Here I am, here the world is, and the cause, the ultimate cause from which this entire existence has come into being. So Jiva, Jagata, Ishvara. So these are the 3 aspects of realities we all understand, that we all think of. Not a single human being won't be can be satisfied with just his mere existence. At some point of life or other, he will be asking that this I am, the world is, this is real, and there must be some cause which has resulted in this. And what's the interrelationship between this? And that interrelationship speaks of these various philosophies. All doesn't agree as per the relationship of these 3 are concerned. They don't deduce the interrelationship in the same way. So we will find that in Advaita Vedanta, in its last analysis, the Jiva and the Jagat has been totally negated. That in absolute sense, as per the Paramarthik Satya is concerned, as per the absolute reality is concerned, only Ishvara. There in Advaita Vedanta, the Ishvara is termed as Brahman, the ultimate. Means Ishvara not in the sense, because in Advaita Vedanta also there is a concept of Ishvara, but that Ishvara also is a part of creation. Means in the sense that the ultimate cause behind the existence, that way I am saying Ishvara. So they nomenclature it as Brahman. That Brahman alone is real. Everything is a mere projection. It's a type of delusion. That Brahman is appearing as the world, is appearing as me, as the Jiva, as well as the Jagat. So this is the approach of Advaita Vedanta. In Bhagavad Gita, as we said, that it has synthesized all the various philosophies. So when it speaks of Ishvara, not as just that as a separate entity, as in the dualistic religion, that Ishvara is, I am, totally separate. No, Bhagavad Gita doesn't ascribe to that. Neither do it ascribe to that Advaita Vedanta, that God is, everything is not. Then what's the standpoint of Bhagavad Gita? So yes, the God is appearing as this world. This appearance, I cannot say it's unreal. Something has projected out of something. So this, I have to take an integral approach. I have to accept the fact the manifestation is also real, not as the manifestation, but in essence as the divine. As in Upanishads also we find, they say that in Chandogya Upanishad, very nicely it has been mentioned, that when a potter is making pot with clay, so in essence all the pots are made of clay. But what makes the difference? Nama Rupa. Certain pot is of the shape of plate, we call it plate. Some is in the form of tumbler, some is in the form of pot. So all these various shapes and the various utilities and the various name, that's all superficial. That gives the difference, but in essence they are all clay. So Nama, Rupa, Artha, Kriya, Karitva. So that makes the difference, that is used for in our day-to-day life as a Vyavaharika Satya, but ultimately it is all clay. So here also we will find Bhagavad Gita says that this manifestation is not as such real. In essence, they are all God and God alone. So instead of negating them, when I am interacting with this world, interact with a change of paradigm, with a change of orientation. That it's not something apart from God. It is God and God alone who is manifesting as the universe. And in my day-to-day life, nothing is secular, everything is spiritual. Why? Because after all my interaction is with the divine and divine alone. Because there is nothing apart from the divine. So how this approach? It's all difference in approach. That the same thing, when viewed from various angles, can appear different, though it's the same thing. The Sri Ramakrishna's story of that elephant. An elephant, when the 5 blind men tried to find out that what the elephant looks like, that one blind man went and touched the trunk, and it said it's like a very stout rope, a very strong rope. Someone just got hold of the feet and said it's like a very strong pillar. Someone got hold of the ears and they told it's like a willowing fan. So just see that as per their perception, as per their touch, the same reality appears as many. So that's why in Vedanta all the philosophies are called darshana. Darshana means to see, the angle, the perspective from which you are seeing. So they are humble enough to accept the very fact, but the word darshana itself shows the humility of all these Indian philosophies, that they accept at the very beginning by saying the word darshana, that from my perspective this is the reality. This is from my perspective. This is the perspective from which I am saying the reality. Bhagavad Gita is trying to have a bird's eye view, and that's how synthesizing all of them. And he's saying, giving that all comprehensive paradigm. Now, why to have a better this Bhagavad Gita's overview paradigm? Because it helps us to deal with the life in a more efficient way. It's not that Advaita is true, others are false, or others are true, Advaita is false. No, nothing. They all are true from their particular perspective. But why not choose a perspective which enables me to deal with the life in a more resilient, calm fashion? And that's the thing Bhagavad Gita is doing by trying to give an all-comprehensive idea of the absolute reality by saying that Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara all together constitutes one reality. And in the first 4 verses we will find these 6 aspects they have spoken of. While interacting with the world, these are the 6 aspects we also comprehend. First, Bhagavad Gita is taking all these 6 aspects and to say that it is the Lord alone who is manifesting in one way or other as the 6 aspects of this reality. So what are those 6 aspects of reality? The first is the Brahman, the absolute reality which is beyond our comprehension. Avang manasa gocharam. It is beyond our conception, but from that absolute reality that everything has emanated. That's the Nirguna Brahman, is the first aspect of that reality. From that, we have this Jiva. What's the idea of Jiva? This is called first comes this Brahman and then comes this Adhyatma. The terms which has been used, the 6 aspects of reality, the terms which has been used here, Brahman, Adhyatma, and then Adhi Daiva, Adhi Yagya, and then this Karma, Adhibhuta and Karma. These are the 6 aspects of reality we have spoken of. So what they mean? Arjuna asked for the clarification. So Brahman is the absolute reality, the Nirgun Brahman. And the Jiva is the Adhyatma, the second reality which is spoken of. Each and every individual, there in the first 4 verses we find this Jiva has been spoken of as a Swabhava. Why? That each and every individual Jiva, though they are the manifestation of the absolute reality, but the moment it finds expression as Jiva, one is distinct from the other. It's a wonderful thing in the entire creation. No 2 beings are alike. They have their own unique mental orientation. And that mental orientation again speaks of the one who is the inner controller. So this Adhyatma, the Jiva, that again finds expression as this particular mental orientation, that is Adhidaiva. Adhidaiva speaks of our mental orientation, the Antaryami. This one sitting inside is looking at our thoughts, looking at our feelings, the perceptions. So that is the Adhidaiva. And from there, the first Adhyatma is the Jiva, then this Adhidaiva. And then they are speaking of Adhiyagya. These terms are very interesting. Means when we were studying in details today, we are summarizing. We won't go to that details, but that when just to understand these things, and when I'm in deep sleep, do I exist? I exist. Though when I am not interacting with the world, I exist. That existence, that when the mind is fully dormant, consciousness is associated with that dormant mind, that speaks of the Jiva. You wake up. Your mind is active, but your mind is a very unique mind. It's not same as others' mind. So you are aware of your mind, that you are witnessing your mind. So the Jiva, and then comes this, when you are observing your mind, that is the Adhidaiva. Adhidaiva. So and then with the mind, what you are doing, you are interacting with the world. Interacting with the world in two ways. One is just perceiving the world, and another is interacting through the feelings, love, emotion. So this Adhiyagya speaks of your interaction through your feelings, emotions, which speaks of interconnectedness. You'll find Bhagavan says, I myself am the Adhiyagya. In a simple way we can understand. The world cannot exist without this interconnectedness. A small child is born, is helpless, totally helpless, extremely vulnerable. But the plan of the creation is such, seeing that immediately the mother's love will well. From where it comes? Is it the mother who loves the child? No. It has been planned by the creation. It has been programmed in the mother's heart. It has been programmed in each and every being's heart. So you will find this interconnectedness. So why these things are told, we will understand that the ego won't come. If the mother feels I love the child, then the expectation grows. And from that suffering comes. If I know that it is a God who is sitting in my heart in the form of that motherly love, and I am just the channel through which God is working to take care of His creation, then that love will be dispassionate. I have done my duty to the best of my ability as a channel. It's not that as a karta, because that good feeling, that motherly feeling, that's not mine. God has implanted. Through that, what has to be done, I have done. Rest all I offer to the divine. I have no expectation. So why these aspects has been spoken of, you will understand. So I am there as the Adhiyagya. And then Adhibhuta. When you are seeing this world, this changing world, constantly is in a state of flux, in a state of flow, that speaks of the Adhibhuta. And last is the karma, the process through which the creation has came into existence, the karma. So this speaks, the six aspects of the entire reality. And it is, God is saying, the Bhagavan is saying, I am all these six aspects of reality. It's not that I am Brahman alone. Rest all are just illusion. I have projected myself into all these six aspects. Why he is saying this? You will find that Bhagavad Gita, when we are studying, one thing you should always remember, that when you are studying the slokas, if you cannot connect the slokas, that from first 4 verses when I am studying, it speaks of the 6 aspects of reality. Next, when I go to the next succeeding verses, suddenly he speaks of that at the time of death, you have to think of me. If you think of me, then you can reach me. Now you will find these two is totally interconnected. He speaks of the 6 aspects of reality and suddenly he is jumping to the idea that Antakali cha mameva smaran yukta kalervaran. In the very fifth verse, that idea will be there. This Antakali cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastatra samshaya. That the one who at the time of death leaves his body thinking of me, he attains me. Now you may feel that as if Bhagavad Gita is like the musing, that all the thoughts just randomly is jumping and it is God is speaking. First he spoke of 6 aspects of reality, and suddenly he is speaking again of the thinking of me at the time of death. How can it be related? So this is very important. Unless you can relate, you are never going to have the correct meaning. Because there is a plan. When Bhagavan is speaking, there is an aim in his mind to make Arjuna comprehend the truth in totality through reason, and then going beyond reason. First through reason. At the ultimate reality is beyond reason. But through reason we have to go to the state which is beyond reason. So this shouldn't contradict reason. So here, what's the justification in suddenly jumping from this idea to this? So now this is that you will find the integral approach of Bhagavad Gita. What's that? Now in Advaita Vedanta, when you say Brahman alone is real, Jiva Jagat is mithya, then what happens? Our entire endeavor is somehow to get detached from life. I have nothing to do with life. Then you will say, in Advaita Vedanta there is no place for our interactions with the world. They say, yeah, it's there. as a novice, when I'm in my spiritual journey, to be always in that contemplative state that I am Brahman, I am Atman, is not possible. Because to certain extent, purification of the mind is required. So Karma Yoga is there for Chitta Shuddhi. But at last, I have to leave the world. This world has no place in my spiritual journey. So it is a very, very life-denying philosophy that way. So that's why this approach, in Bhagavad Gita, what it's saying, it's almost like the idea of Vijnana spoken of by Sri Ramakrishna. That through negation you go to the absolute, you realize the absolute, and then there's Vyuthana, you come back from meditation, and then your perspective has changed. What's the thing? Previously, the world was not God, I negated it, and this has taken me to the realization that God is the innermost core of our being, is the essence of the entire existence. And when I come out of that, now my vision has changed. That what I thought is not God, I find is God, it's God and God alone, appearing as this world of name and form. As Sri Ramakrishna used to give a very nice example, when you are climbing the stairs, you negate the stairs. That's yes, this lower stair I have to negate and go to the upper stair. And that also I negate, I go to the next higher stair. So as if I am denying the stairs to rise up to the terrace. So that's neti. When I go to the terrace, then I realize the material with which the terrace is made, with the same material the staircase is made. So when I'm coming down, now I have the idea, it's the same material by which the terrace is made, the entire staircase is made by that. So this is the process of ascending and then descending with a total different perspective. So that's the idea of going to the state of samadhi. That many will be thinking that sleep is something equivalent to samadhi. No. In sleep, my mind is dormant. I'm going to a very state where I'm going beyond all perceptions. In samadhi also, it is almost like that. But Swamiji used to say very nicely, the opposite poles look alike always. Ultraviolet light I cannot see, infrared light also I cannot see. Both I cannot see, but one is intense, one is very dim, very light, and the other is very high frequency light. Both are invisible to me. Similarly, sleep and samadhi were poles apart. In one sentence, Swamiji is saying, a fool goes to a state of deep sleep, comes back as a fool. A fool goes to a state of samadhi, comes back as a wise man. So that's the step. He is now dhira. He is now full of wisdom. He came down and he found this world is nothing but the manifestation of the divine. So now what will happen? In his day-to-day life, with his changed perspective, it is now possible to think of God always. He need not have to think that how I can just simply avoid the world and run for meditation. Of course, when I get time for my meditation, I go deep into my meditation. When I come out, it's not a distraction. Still, I am interacting with the divine and divine alone. So this how it helps. That what I practice throughout my life, that alone can become the last thought at the time of death. It is not that I just spend the life as I wish and keep the thought of God for the time of death. That at the time of death I will think, because that's what will decide my destiny. But it can never be. At the time of death, what I have done throughout my life, that has become habitual, and that will be the spontaneous thought at the time of death. I cannot in any way decide what I am going to think at the time of death. My entire life will force me to think in a particular way at the time of death. So now this approach, integral of Bhagavad Gita, how it is helping. That why he spoke of the 6 aspects. That yes, in your day-to-day life, contemplate on God. When you have no responsibilities, when you have got sufficient time, hold on to God, in the words of Ramakrishna, with both the hands. And when you have to take care of responsibilities, never leave God. With one hand still hold on to God, with the other hand take care of activities. The awareness of the divine should be there continuously in your day-to-day life. Whether you are in your seat of meditation or you are interacting with the world. You are never leaving the asana of your meditation as such. That's what some of the saints say. That when you get up from the asana is still continuing with you. What's the idea? The awareness of the divine is still with you. So then if I can practice with this paradigm, with this approach, then only the thought of God can become habitual. Otherwise it is very fragmentary. Just a small part of my life is spiritual, the rest all is just secular. With that I can never have that habitual mode of interacting with the divine. It can never become spontaneous. So now you will understand why, after speaking of this integral aspect of reality, he is speaking. In the 6th verse you will find. In the 5th verse he told that at the last moment what you think, that's going to be the course of your destiny. The yang vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tang tame vaiti konteya sada tad bhava bhavita. So that when you are alive, what is your general course of your thought? What is the general trend of your thought? That will decide your last thought. So now that's why we have to decide the course of our action in our day-to-day life. And what's the way that I can think of God at the last moment? Habitually I have to be thinking of God in all my activities. How is it possible? If I take Jiva and Jagat as something which has to be negated, it's not possible. Because when I'm interacting with the world, I have nothing, my spirituality, it has nothing to do with my spirituality then. It is totally secular. So with this approach of Bhagavad Gita, then nothing remains secular. When I'm interacting with the world, that also is worship. I'm continuing with my worship. And then with this approach, I can make the contemplation of the divine something 24/7. And then it becomes habitual. So now you will understand why, after speaking of that all-comprehensive aspect of the divinity in the first 4 verses, next in the 5th, 6th, 7th and the next 4 verses, he speaks of this remembrance of the God in all the aspects of our life. So it is not a life-denying philosophy. So it speaks of that how to approach the life with this all-comprehensive paradigm, and then only you can have this habitual thought of God in all the aspects of your life. So nothing remains secular, everything becomes spiritual. So with this, we will find next from verses 9 to 13, what this says. So now he's speaking of that when you are departing the body, when you are leaving the body, to ascertain that you attain a very higher state of existence, there is a prakriya, a process by following which you can leave the body. So that process, that yoga, process of yoga, by which, adapting to which I can have a very higher course, my destiny can be decided, I can have a higher state of existence, that has been spoken of in the 9th to 13th verse. So what in the 10th verse we will find, it is mentioned, prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukta yoga balena chaiva bhruvar madhye pranam aveshya samyak satang parang purusham upaiti daivyam. So when you have led the life in such a way that you were always God conscious, the awareness of the divine was always there in your mind, that has helped you to grow some detachment. With the detachment, what happens? So in Yoga Sutra, there is a concept called arishta, that when we are going to have a natural death, not a sudden accidental death, it's not that death comes suddenly. For all of us, we do get some forecast of death. Death is nearing. But most of us simply ignore it. Why? Because we are so attached to this life, we ignore it. But a yogi who has already grown that detachment, he does understand that it's a time, I am nearing death. How does he understand? as we were saying, the prana vayu, there are 5 types of prana vayu: prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. This prana, apana, what apana speaks of? The prana vayu which helps us to get rid of toxins. So this excretion. So we all will find that the nature's call is apana vayu. With this, we will try to understand the udana. Udana speaks of the prana vayu which helps us to eject the subtle body, to eject out of this cross body at the time of death. So this too has something in similarity, this apana vayu and the udana vayu. What is the similarity? You will find that for us, the call of nature, it's voluntary to certain extent, and then it becomes involuntary. So we all can experience that to certain extent I have control over it. I can decide whether to go for the nature's call now or 5 minutes later. But if I delay it too much, then it becomes involuntary. So similarly, this udana vayu, at the time of death, we do experience that prana vayu is tending to just come out, eject out. But because of our extreme attachment to life, we go on holding on to it till it becomes involuntary. It is forced out. So here, Bhagavad Gita is saying that if you have developed the detachment by leading a God-conscious life, so when the death comes, you can adopt this process of yoga to decide your course of your destiny, which will decide a higher state of your existence. So what they're saying? They're saying that so that through the power of yoga, this prana vayu, you have to bring it between the eyebrows. So this is the point where you have to take, and then bhaktya yukta yogo valena vachaiva prayana kale manasa chalana bhruvor madhye pranam aveshya samyak satang param purusham, the one who can depart by bringing the udana vayu between the eyebrows. And that's from where the prana vayu departs. He attains a very high state of existence. In our scriptures, they speak of Brahma Loka. Even when we were discussing that what actually is the idea. Just see, even in our day-to-day life, you will find that there is a different type of happiness other than the sensate happiness. Even I am relishing the food, the moment I am satiated, I cannot continue with it. It's over. From the morning I was cooking and I started having my food, in half an hour it's over. I'm satiated. And next day again the hunger will come back. The limitation is I cannot continue with it. There's an interruption. But there's another form of happiness. I have started learning some instrumental music. Suppose I have started learning sitar. At the beginning it's not at all pleasurable. My skills are yet to meet the challenge. But when gradually my skills develop, it meets the challenge, I enter into a state of flow. I'm so focused, the other distraction starts falling off. I'm not aware of any other. People say I cannot concentrate because of this distraction. But it is actually the opposite. If I am focused, the distractions falls off naturally. If I say I cannot concentrate because of the distraction, it speaks my mind is not focused. If I am focused, all those distractions are not going to disturb me. I am so focused. What to speak of external distractions? Even your bodily feelings in the form of hunger, thirst, they also are not registered by the mind. He can continue. He will find that such type of occupation, like this instrumental music, or one who is painting, these all speaks of developing skills. When the skills meet the challenge, you enter into a state of flow. You are so focused. Even your bodily feelings, they are not registered by the mind. They also start falling off. Now, if a person through meditation has entered that state, that he can go on thinking of the divine, where nothing is disturbing him, he can continue with his contemplation for longer and longer period of time. That becomes his natural state of existence. For such a person, when he dies, what happens? As he is habituated in the state of flow, he continues in that state of flow without these bodily feelings coming back to disturb him. Now, what brings us down to this worldly plane of existence? It's all the bodily feelings, the hunger, thirst, the need to procreate. These are the things which we cannot do without the body. These are the urges which brings us down again to this physical plane of existence. The one who can stay in that plane of contemplation alone, he has been habituated in that. The bodily feelings are no more registered. They have fallen off. So now after death, he can continue into that higher plane of Brahma Loka. Nothing brings him back. So that's the thing which has been indicated. The one who can bring his mind. How he will bring his mind? That is being indicated again in the next verse. That what? Sarva dwarani sangyamya mano ridi nirudhyacha murdhini adhaya atmanam pranam asthita yogadharanam. So first, stop your interaction with the external world. As we said, that unless these doors are closed, there is another door in the heart that won't open. So close these doors and the door in the heart that opens. And there you find that that whenever we point where I am, if someone asks, where are you? It is here. It's always we point here. So here, this is in the core of your being, that the heart is the center of your existence. The Jivatma resides there. So when you close all the Indriyas, he is felt here. From here, now bring it here. That's the thing, that at the time of death. First, stop your interaction with the world to feel the presence of the self in the core of your being. From there to the power of yoga, with the help of this Udana Vayu, rise it here, and then when you depart, it leads you to that higher planes of existence. It's not the absolute, the ultimate, that liberation. Because here still the mind exists. As when we were taking this class, we will find that sometimes the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna helps us very nicely to understand that when you bring your mind between the eyebrows, what is there? He's saying you feel as if you can touch the flame, but when you approach to touch the flame, you will find there's a thin layer of glass, transparent glass between. It doesn't allow you to touch the flame. What it speaks? That though I have got rid of all other bodily feelings, but the ego is still there. That's the last thing to fall off. The idea that I am, God is, I am meditating is still there. The duality is still there. So that's why there is a question of this, going from one place to other. The moment that ego falls off, you just become one with the divine. So here it is not speaking of that. It is speaking of, because ultimate is this Sahasrara. He is speaking of this between the eyebrows. So from when you depart your body by bringing the pranavayu here, the distinction between me and the Lord is there. So I will be in a state of contemplation, enjoying the bliss in a higher plane of existence. I haven't merged with that absolute. So that's the thing. And when the day of Brahma is over, this Brahma's mind goes to deep sleep. That will be spoken of in the succeeding verses. Then what happens? Then with the emergence, I won't come back. Others remain in the seed form as I have went to that state of contemplation. Along with the merging of the Brahma's mind in deep sleep, my existence is merged with the absolute. So this is the concept of Krama Mukti. Gradually, I go first to the state of that Brahma Loka, and from there, at last, at the end of this cycle, I merge with the absolute. So it's a question of Krama Mukti that has been spoken of from the 9th to the 13th verse. It's a very high state. Indeed, it's a very high state. But it's not the ultimate, that mergence with the absolute, which will be spoken of in the succeeding verse. So what's the process? In short, that at the time of death, as I'm already habituated to stay in that divine plane of existence, I close all my eyes, shut all my indriyas, and feel the divinity in my heart, rise it between the eyebrows, and in that state, willfully. That's the thing. That this Udana Vayu can be released willfully. It's voluntary to a certain extent. That's why you will find that all these highly illumined spiritual souls, they decide at what time they are going to leave the body. There are many such instances, many such instances. They decide the time of their death at the proper time, with some proper, this sanctification. They leave the body so that they can be going to that higher destination. And others who are highly attached to the life, at last will be forced out. So they cannot decide their own course. They will be just dragged by their these past impressions, and they will be forced to take birth again, for which they have no choice. So this is the thing, from the 9th to 13th verse is mentioned, the process by which a yogi has to depart his body. And then we will find from in 14 and 15, he says that for a devotee it becomes very easy, because throughout his life the thought of the divine became something spontaneous for him. So he need not have to adopt to this yogic process, because the thought of the divine is so spontaneous in his life that he has thought of me ananya cheta. Without this, you will find in the 14th and in the 15th verse, what is saying? Ananya cheta satatang yo mang smarati nityasha tasyahang sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yoginah. So there is no question for such a person of coming and going. So if you have resigned to the divine, constantly contemplating on him, then what happened? There is no question of coming back. You are totally absorbed in him. That either this just with your ego you are contemplating in a higher state, or even the ego has dissolved, you merge with the absolute, and then there is no question of punarjanma. That's being indicated in this 15th verse. Mamu petya punarjanma dukkham alayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana sangsiddhing paramangata. So having come to me, these high-souled men are no more subject to rebirth, which is the transitory and the abode of pain. So they have reached that highest perfection. So this is the thing. Very nicely, this Bhagavad Gita is saying that either you go to that Brahma Loka from where there is Krama Mukti, or you get Sadhya Mukti. If you have sufficiently advanced enough to go beyond the ego, then what happens? That yes, you have merged with the Absolute. There is no question of coming back. So then from the 16th to 19th, this verse speaks of the impermanence. Till you have attained that state, he is speaking of the impermanence of the different worlds, including the Brahma Loka. They are all impermanent. Why? That we read that Brahma Bhuvanal Loka Punaravartino Arjuna Mamupetya tu Kaunteya Punarjanma Navidyate. The dwellers of all these worlds, they are subject to rebirth. But the one who has attained me, for him there is no rebirth. So he has gone beyond this cycle of birth and death. So that's why Bhagavad Gita is imploring that just don't have that ambition for that higher worlds. Because from there also maybe the duration for which you enjoy in the higher realm may be something exponentially higher than what at the present existence. But still it has an end. It will bring you back again to this world of mortality. Kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. When your punya is over, again you come back. So that's why they are saying that, Lord is saying that it's not just going to the higher planes. By your devotion to me, unless you attain me, this transmigration in this cycle of birth and death, that won't cease, that will continue. And what's the harm in it? After all, this life is dukkha and dukkha alone. Dukkham alayam ashashvatam. It is not something which is shashvata, permanent. It is ultimately going to give us dukkha. So to get rid of this suffering, to become the higher of this eternal bliss, worship me and me alone, being ananya cheta, means with full heart, this without any distraction. Or otherwise all other lokas, from there you have to come back. And that's the idea of this astronomical this length of years of Brahma Loka and others were spoken of in the next few verses. we won't go to the details. What they said, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyad Brahmano Vidu. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. Yuga. What's the idea of Yuga? So they say at present we are in Kali Yuga. 432,000 years is the duration of Kali Yuga. It's just 5,000 years we have passed through. So 432, it is just the beginning. 432,000 years is the duration of Kali Yuga. Its double was the previous Yuga. So this Dwapara Yuga was just the double of it. Treta was the 3 times of it. And Satya was the 4 times of it. So if you take all these 4 yugas together, means 432,000 into 10, because 4 times of that 432,000, then 3 times, 4 into 3, 4 plus 3, 7, and 2 times is the just our previous Dwapara Yuga, 9, and this Kali Yuga 1, 10. So 10 into 432,000. So it becomes 4,320,000 years. So it's a huge time. That's just one yuga. Such 1,000 yugas is 1 day of Brahma. So you can just to give an idea, it's something, speaking of some astronomical a high figure. That's the length of the day. So that by going to that higher world where you can enjoy for that much of duration, but still it will end. You may say, oh, after such a long time I don't care, let me enjoy it. But as we gave that example when we were taking the class, it's all very relative. From our standpoint at present, I think that's a very, very long span of existence. But take a small example. In this life, just take a mosquito. Its lifespan is just for a few days. Now, if a mosquito compares its life with our life, it will think us as Brahma. It's such a huge life, 100 years for a mosquito is but do we think our life is very long? So that's the very thing. It's this idea of relativity, that when you are in that state, there also you will be constantly disturbed by the idea that after all this is all ephemeral. So it's all very relative. From this standpoint, it may appear to be something achievable. But when you are there, then in that state you find, after all, it's going to end. Very quickly it's going to end. Because there, the way you calculate the time is something totally different. Just the way at present as a human, the way we look at time is totally different from that of a small insect. Even from your dog, the pet you have. Almost 4 times, not 4, some 5, 6 times, 6 or 7 times. 7 times higher is multiplied is our life. So 7 times. Just think, for a dog, it will feel that we are having such a long life. But do we feel that way? That's the thing. It's very relative. So, Kshine Punya, again you have to come back. So don't be just having ambition for these various lokas. That's why this discussion they are bringing into existence. That all these various lokas, they are after all ephemeral. They cannot take you to that highest absolute realizations. So bhuta grama sevayang bhutva praliyate ratriagame avasha partha prabhavatya aharagame. So now what this 19th verse speaks of, that if I am not liberated in this one days, the span of the day of Brahma, means when the entire creation is manifested, I am taking birth after birth, rebirth, and I haven't been, I couldn't reach the spiritual identity. Then what happens? At the end of Brahma's day, even in modern science, in astrophysics, we speak of that at a time this universe from Big Bang it came, and there is a time where again it is going to collapse. It's all going to merge into that singularity. So here also they're speaking of that. This is a wonderful thing. In Bhagavad Gita, in our scriptures, we find this idea of this cycle. So again it will merge. Then what will happen to the ones who have not attained that liberation? They will go to the seed form. They will remain in the as a seed, merged in the, in Brahma, again to come back in the next cycle. So as they are still in the form of seed, they will again come back. As Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel says, that the house lady has a hodgepodge bag in which she keeps, whenever you have a kitchen garden, you will having your vegetables, and she will be collecting the seeds and keeps it in the hodgepodge bag. Why? Again, when the proper time comes, in the proper season, she will bring out the seed and plant and just sow them, and again they will sprout. So just for in the year, only for 1 or 2 months you are going to get that vegetable. What you have done for the rest of the time, you have kept it, just the seeds were kept again to sprout when the favorable circumstances, the next season comes, the problem again sprouts. So similarly, they are saying that don't think that the creation, when it's over, then after all, even our subtle mind, which has not got liberated, so that also is going to disintegrate. No, it will remain in the seed form. Again, when the next creation, when again the favorable circumstances of life manifests, it will again sprout. So that's the thing. Ratriyagame avasha partha. With the night, it just merges, and then prabhavati aharagame. And again, involuntarily, it manifests again on the advent of the next cosmic day. So this goes on. So now, what are the course of our destiny if we have not attained the absolute, we have not merged with the absolute? Then what's the course of our destiny? There are 2 courses. One is called Pitriyana and another is Devayana. These 2 paths have been spoken of in from 20 to 22. Bhagavan again speaks that all other worlds are impermanent. Only attaining me is something which speaks of your final deliverance from this transmigration. You reach the absolute. So in 28 to 22, it speaks of the impermanence of the different worlds. Sri Krishna speaks of the eternal nature of the Supreme Lord. That he speaks in the 3 verses, 20 to 22. That what he says, Parah tasmatu bhavonya avyakta avyaktat sanatana yah sa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. So now, when the Brahma's day is over, it goes to night, then nothing is manifested. That is one type of non-manifestation. But there is another non-manifestation which is beyond that. That is my real nature. That I am the one who is behind both the manifestation as well as the unmanifestation of the Brahma. And the only way of deliverance is to attain that unmanifested, the ultimate unmanifested, who is witnessing the deep sleep state of the Brahma, of the cosmic mind. Even our day-to-day life, even when I am in deep sleep, it is my consciousness is witnessing the deep sleep state. How I know that it was witnessing? Because when I wake up, I know I was sleeping. We all say, oh, I had a very nice deep sleep. I was so relaxed. Who is saying that? If no one has witnessed that, how can you say that? So I witnessed that. So the one who is witnessing, he is also not manifested. Like in the state of deep sleep, that is unmanifested state. And the one who is witnessing that, he is also unmanifested. The one who is witnessing this unmanifested state in the deep sleep, he is that absolute. When you reach that, then there is no question of coming back. So that's what he's saying in Bhagavan here. Parah tasmatu bhavonya avyaktat sanatana. This avyakta, the state of sleep, that is avyakta. The entire creation has as if merged in your mind. That is avyakta. So beyond that, there is another avyakta, the one who is witnessing that. Yah sa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. When the entire existence merges in the so-called mind of Brahma, not Brahman, Brahma, then everything has nashyatsu, everything has disintegrated. But that ultimate unmanifested state, that's the Brahman, that still exists. That never ceases to exist. So nashyatsu na vinashyati, that ever exists. And to attain that, that is being spoken of as the highest goal. This yat avyakta akshara iti yukta tamahu paramangating yang prapya na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. So that manifested, that one who attains that, from where there is no return, that is the supreme abode. When you attain that, from there is no return. So after saying that, from the 23rd to the 28th verse, what is the last, the 28th is the last verse. In this section they speak of this Pitriyana and the Devayana. So this, that when, if I have not got the absolute liberation, then there are two paths I can follow. Of that, one is superior, another is inferior. This Pitriyana is inferior, the Devayana is superior. Pitriyana speaks of coming back again to this worldly plane of existence. Devayana, though I have not attained the absolute, but I can remain in a higher plane of existence called Brahmaloka, from where I need not come back to this, again, this worldly plane of existence. And there I can stay in the state of contemplation till the end of the Brahma's cycle. And when Brahma goes to sleep, and that's the time I merge with the absolute. So that's the state of Krama Mukti. So through Devayana I can attain Krama Mukti, and through Pitriyana I have to come back again and again. So that's what is being mentioned from 23rd to the 28th verse. Yatra kale tu anavritting avritting chaiva yogina prayata yanti tang kalang vakshyami bharatarshava. So this, I will tell you, O Arjuna, the time in which the yogis depart never to return, and also the time in which they depart to return. They will have to return. So there is a path of no return and there is a path of return. So what are they? So you will find, as we mentioned when we are studying, that illumination speaks of light and delusion speaks of darkness. So the path of light has been spoken of as the Devayana, and all the thing which signifies darkness has been spoken of as Pitriyana. So what has been spoken of? This yatra kale tu anavritting avritting chaiva yogina prayata yanting tang kalang vakshami bharatarshava. And then this too, that you will find the daytime, that we are not going to the slokas, the daytime, the northern solstice, the bright half of the lunar cycle, and these things have been indicated as the path of Devayana, because they speak of light. And Ratri, the night, the darkness, the night, and the southern solstice, in the northern hemisphere during the winter, when the sun is going through the southern path, the daytimes are short. So that speaks of more darkness. So that's why this southern solstice, the Kinayana, that has been spoken of as darkness. So all this indicates the darkness. So Pitriyana, from where there is return, that has been spoken of as darkness. So just by gathering some merits, I may go to some higher lokas. But again, Kshina Punya, when all my punya is over, exhausted, again I come back to this plane of existence. So that is Pitriyana. And Devayana is the path of contemplation. Through contemplation, I have reached the higher state from where there is no coming back. So after speaking that, as we said, the last sloka, which was left out, that's what speaking of, that after knowing there's all this path of our destiny, that we should attempt, what should be our endeavor, to reach the absolute, so that there is no question of coming back to this world of dukkha. So what is being spoken of? Vedeshu yagyeshu tapah suchaiva daneshu yat punya phalang pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidang viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chatyam. So through all these meritorious acts, by studying the Vedas, by doing yagyas, by doing tapas, by offering something as a gift, daneshu, yat punya phalang pradishtam, all the merits which you get, atyeti tat sarvam, a yogi, after knowing very well that what the destiny is there by following all these practices, it is not going to give me that ultimate liberation. So atyeti means to transcend that. Tat sarvamidam viditva, by knowing them very well, by knowing both the paths very well, I transcend them. How I transcend? Parang sthanam upaiti chadyam, by resorting to Lord and Lord alone. That I dedicate my life to the service of the divine in such a way that all my activities speaks of worship. That throughout my life, whatever I am doing with a sense of that dedication to the divine, and just not to acquire punya, not to acquire merits, because that again will be exhausted and I will be brought back to this worldly plane of existence. But by resigning everything to the divine, by taking sharanagati, by taking refuge to the divine, when I spend my life, then what happens? Then I develop the capacity to be one with him. And if I can become one with him by getting rid of all my worldly entanglements, then what happens? Then this yogi attains this param sthanam. So that speaks of even the emergence of the ego. We were speaking of that when you, through your meditation, you enter a state when you got rid of all the bodily feelings, but still you are continuing with your ego. I am, the Lord is. That also speaks of the remaining of the duality. When that ego also has fallen, your ego also has been taken away, you become one with the object of meditation, then the liberation is something which is immediate. It is atyantika. It is not krama. Immediate. Immediately you are liberated. This all that in Yoga Sutra they say your seed has been burned. If you burn a seed, there is no question of sprouting it again. So all the seeds gets burned when you realize the absolute. When you do that, then what happens? There is no question of coming back. You have attained the param. Then you get sadhya mukti, means immediate atyantika mukti. At the time, immediately you get jivan mukti. At while living, though you are living, you are free. And at the time of death, that leads to atyantika mukti. Immediately, there is no question of going and coming. There is no question of following any path. You just become one with the absolute. So yogi, knowing both the path, at last rejects both of them, transcends both of them, and makes it a firm resolution that I have to transcend both the paths and get merged with the absolute by going into that state of samadhi where the ego also has fallen off. So this is the idea which you will find is in the definition of samadhi. What is samadhi? Triputi bheda. Triputi. That even when my mind is extremely concentrated, there's the idea, three ideas are still there. Dhyana, dhyata, dheya. Dhyana is the process of meditation, dhyata, the one is meditating, and dheya is the object of meditation. These three are still there. Triputi bheda. Bheda means when you have collapsed this triad, it has collapsed. When it collapses, when the ego has fallen off, you become one with the object of meditation. And then that's the state from where there is no question of coming back, because the ego has been annihilated. Ego is the cause of our transmigration. Ego is the cause of our this immortal existence. When it has been annihilated, I become one with that absolute existence. And that happens when knowing both the path, I can reject both them and with a firm resolution want the Lord and Lord alone. So with this, the 8th chapter is concluded. So from the next class, we will start with the 9th chapter. That this same idea, that reaching the absolute, this will be elaborated again in the 9th chapter. So we will take as we said, that Bhagavad Gita starts with jnana. In the 2nd chapter, you will find it is speaking of the Atman. That the body falls off, the Atman still exists. It gives more inclination towards the jnana. But as you proceed in Bhagavad Gita, in the future, with the later chapters, you'll find it's all bhakti and bhakti alone. So then why this sequence? Because even when we believe in God, most of us, our belief is our bhakti is very impure. Why? That God, we take God as the means, world as the end. That God is there to just fulfill our desires. I pray for this, I pray for that. World is the end. So, bhakti is good. It can take us to that ultimate spiritual realization if at first I have refined the idea that I am not this body-mind complex, because all our desires are related to this body-mind complex. If first I am aware of the fact that I am the spirit, and my relationship with God is the spirit's relationship with the spirit, worship the spirit by the spirit, then that devotion becomes pure. That can take us to liberation. Other forms of devotions are impure. That cannot take us to the liberation. That's why first, for that necessary purification, it gives that jnana of our real self. And then that real self has to be attached to the Paramatman. And then it takes us to the bhakti. So jnana has been used as a process for purification. And then, so this is the difference between all the path. In a jnana, in a one who is a jnana margi, he says karma, bhakti are all preparations, jnana is the ultimate. But Bhagavad Gita is, we find, their bhakti has been given the predominance. Here, jnana also has been taken as a preliminary practice, which helps us to purify. And with that purified soul, being bereft of all its association with the body-mind complex. And then it is relating with the absolute, with bhakti. So in the later chapters, we will find bhakti is being elucidated more and more. So in the 9th chapter, again, we will find this bhakti will be elucidated, where this how to be always merged in the thought of the divine so that we can attain that absolute, that will be elaborated in more details in the 9th chapter. So with this, we conclude our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.